Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of the Learning FreeCAD for Beginners. Today we're going to be looking at creating this fan blade, and we're going to be creating it in both the part and part design. So there's two videos. This one will be for the part and there'll be an additional video that'll be released for the part design. So if you want to use either of those workflows and you've got a preference over a workbench, or you just want to see the differences between those two workbenches and differences between the two workflows, then you can do so. So it's a very simple fan that we're going to be creating, and let's look how to do this first in the part workbench. If you like what you see and you want to donate to the channel, then you can do so via Ko-Fi or Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/MANG0, or via PayPal at paypal.com/paypalme/DarrenBEstone. I also run a Patreon where you can get early access and additional content, and that's at patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Links can be found in the channel header, on the About page, or in the descriptions of these videos. So to start with, I'm in FreeCAD and I've created a new document. We're going to be using a part workflow for this one. So let's come over to the sketcher, and I'm going to come up to view and toggle the axis cross. This lets me know where the center of the scene is, because we want to build everything around a center point to allow it to rotate properly. I'm going to create a new sketch along the XY plane looking down. So you can see our point of origin here. The fan I'm going to create is going to have 3 blades. You can add more if you want to. So for that I'm going to build it just in this quadrant here. So we're going to come up and use the center and end point arc. Now I've got the auto constraints on, so if I look over the other side, I've got the auto constraints on. If you're using later versions of 0.21, then you'll have a drop down here where you can turn these auto constraints on and avoid redundant auto constraints. I'm going to auto constrain to the center, come up and create an arc. Now this is where the center spindle is going to be. So we're going to set a radius on here. So click on the arc, come up to the radius and set this to 20 millimeters. We're going to use the vertical and the horizontal axis guidelines. If we've got a different fan and it's smaller, then we can add some lines in here to say something like this and set angle constraints between these two with an angle constraint and set our angle up in here. And we do the same over this side as well with the same angle. But because I've got 3 blades, I'm going to just use this quadrant. So I'm going to create 2 more lines now and place these connecting up to the vertical and the horizontal like so. And we're going to create another arc. So I'm going for an endpoint and endpoint arc. We can use the other one if we want to. I'm going to connect up these 2 points and create our arc. And we'll take the center of the arc, this one here, and place the center, this point, and our center point coincident with each other. So we've got the starts of our blade. Let's set the radius of this arc using the radius and set that to 100 millimeters. Now we can start to shape the blade. Let's pull these over to the side, get these out of the way. I'm going to use the fillet, so this one here, sketch fillet. I'm going to fillet off the top of this blade like so. And we're going to do the same for the bottom. So we've got our fillets in here. Hit escape and set some diameter to this one. Select it and set, well, let's set the radius. Set the radius for that one. I'm going to set this one to 30 millimeters. I'm going to take this point and this line and make a point on object constraint. Let's set it to this one. And we'll set that to 20 millimeters. Again, taking this point and placing it upon this line with a point on object constraint. I'm going to remove this line. So this one here, I'm going to remove it now. So I hit delete. It's just there to guide us. I'm going to use an arc. So I'm going to take the arc, endpoint or endpoint arc, and place it in here using these 2 points and creating the arc like so. We've got a nice arc in there. I can adjust that to make sure this point stays on this line with point on object constraint. and we can set that where we want. Let's create some tangency, taking this arc, and create a tangent constraint and hit OK. So now we've got this tangent constraint in here. I can decide where it's going to go. Finally, let's take this arc, add a radius of about 60 millimeters. So we've got our fan blade. Let's hit close. So that's the start of our fan blade, and we can see how that sits in the middle. So at the moment we've got a fan blade, but we need to have this angled and arrayed around a center point. Let's deal with the angle. To do that, we're going to use a common workflow. So I'm going to come over to the part workbench. And I'm going to make a sweep along a helix. This will give me the shape to extract this from using the intersection or common. So make sure nothing's selected, come up to the part and create a primitive. So in here we have a number of primitive objects, including the helix. And we can come in and set the radius. Now this will be the same radius as this arc here, which is 20 millimeters. The height will probably be the same as the connection point. So once we put a cylinder in here to connect this all up, it's probably going to be the same height as that. So we'll say 15 millimeters. Next is the pitch, and this is going to be quite high. So for starts, I'm just going to put 10 millimeters and we're going to adjust that in a moment and hit create. So our helix has been created. Now don't adjust the helix from here, otherwise we'll create another one. Let's hit close, click on the helix and come down and start changing, say, the pitch. Let's set that to 30. We can see how that pitches around there. Let's go a bit further and set it to 35. So we have this helix that goes around here. This is going to be a path to sweep something across. So this is going to be basically the profile for our blade. Notice where the helix starts. So the helix is starting at this point, in line with the side of the blade. If it's not in line, just click on it, right click, transform, and we can rotate that around to where we want. So now we're going to create a new sketch at this point that comes out this way. Now there's a number of ways of doing this. We could create a sketch basically on the base plane by coming over to Sketcher and making sure nothing's selected and creating a new sketch on the XY plane. Or we can come in and select this point of the helix. Now sketch is going to get in the way, so select the sketch, press the spacebar and select this point of the helix and create a new sketch and translate. So the origin will be translated to here. So I'm going to create some geometry in here now. And this is going to be a line that comes from this point outwards, like so. And we're going to thicken this in the part workbench with a 3D offset. I'm going to keep this line in line with these 2 points here. So it comes out from this point to this point and out this way. By pulling in another point, that means we can make this fully constrained by using a parallel constraint and an extra line. There are other ways to do it, but we just don't want this line to move. So let's import this point. So what's happened is the point being projected down on the planar surface, so along the same plane. Click top and come over to the line. Use a line, constrain to this point, and come in and constrain to this one. So we've spanned those 2 points. Now I'm going to take this line and this line and make a parallel constraint to keep those in line. Next, let's select the line that connects these 2 points and make that construction geometry. So this won't show up. If you can't find the construction geometry up here, go to sketch, sketch geometries, and you find toggle construction geometry. So this will toggle. If I click that again and use the same tool, then it will toggle out of construction mode. Let's close and have a look, see what we've got. So we've got this coming out this way, and we've got our sketch. Let's press the spacebar to show that. If we sweep this along the helix, it's not going to be long enough. So we need to make this longer. Let's come into that sketch and set the length of this. Pull it out, select it, and select a length of 100 millimeters. And that's the same as the diameter of this circle here. Let's hit close. So what we've got now is we've got the blade. We've got a profile sketch, although it's one line, that's fine. And we've got this helix, which is going to be the path of the sweep. That's now come over to the part workbench and click on the part workbench. I'm going to come up to the part and come down to the sweep. So this will allow us to sweep this profile along this helix. First we need the profile, which is sketch 001. So it's not the first sketch, sketch 001, so it's highlighted there. Either double click on it or press the arrow key. We've got our selected profile. Now we click sweep path and we select the helix, this helix here. Click done and then click OK. We've swept that along that path. Now we need to offset this. We need to give this some thickness. Click the sweep, go up to part and use the 3D offset tool. It can be found on the toolbar here. And let's set this offset to something like 3 mil and make sure that the fill offset is checked so we get some thickness and hit OK. What we've got, if we look down, we've got an offset. Inside that is the sweep. Notice that the sweep is still visible. I'm going to leave it visible for the time being just to show you something that may confuse you when it comes to extracting out the blade from this profile. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to extract out that blade from the profile. First of all, we need to make some thickness for the sketch of the blade. And we need to extrude it through the sweep. So that's extrude and extrude it around about 50 millimeters. And we need to make sure that it goes all the way through that sweep. So I'm looking at this now and I can see that it's gone through the bottom, which is correct. So it encapsulates that sweep there. And it comes all the way around here. And we've got no gapping at the top here. As a matter of fact, I can take that extrude and I'm just going to set that to 60 millimeters. Length forward. So we clear that. What we're trying to do is create a common between these two surfaces. So where they meet, we need to extract out that shape from this sweep. So now we can create the common. Select the extrude. No, it's only selected the face, that's fine. We've got the extrude selected up here. Control click the sweep. Well, it's actually the offset. So control click that and use this button here, the intersection. Also available from part, Boolean and intersection. So this is where the confusion can start. We create the intersection, but you see we have this here. So we still got the original surface. If we click on it, it's just because it's still visible. So press the space bar to hide it. And we can come in and click on the sketch, press the space bar on that, and also the helix, press the space bar on that. So we've got our first blade that sits here. But we need 3 of them. Now at this point we can add fillets to the blade, but I'm just going to show you the array tools. So if you wanted to array this, then we can come over to the draft workbench and make sure the grid is turned off because we don't need it. Let's quickly save this. File, save as. So now that's saved, we can go onto our array, and so make sure the common is selected. This common here. Come up to modifications, array tools, and polar array, not circular array, polar array. We have our polar array, but we need to modify the X, Y, and Z coordinates. Now, if we click reset point, it will reset the point to here, but the minute we move off, as you can see, well, our center of rotation has changed. So we click reset point, we stay over here and then set the number of elements. And we set this, we need 3 blades, so set it to 3. If you come off, then we can just click reset point again. We're going to go the full 360 and hit OK. So we've created those blades, and as you can see, they sit around the center point. So that's now create our center point. Now there are a number of ways of doing this. So this is the connector. Let's come over to, say, the part. We can create a sketch in the center, or we could just add a cylinder. And this will be the same diameter as this. So this is 20 millimeters. So the diameter here, sorry, the radius is 20 millimeters. Click on the cylinder, come down to the radius and set that to 20 millimeters. And let's have a look. We need to set the height. So the height, if you remember back to our helix, we set that to 15 mil. So let's have a look, see what 15 mil gives us. So that's looking all right. We may need to move this down. We can either right click transform it, or we come into the placement, position along the Z axis, and move this down to where we want. So they connect up correctly. So we've got that in there. So at this point, we would do a Boolean against the array and the cylinder by control selecting them, and come up to part, Boolean, and union. So those union together. And that creates a fusion. If you have problems and they don't fuse properly, just make the cylinder slightly bigger. And we can do that in here actually by clicking on the cylinder and setting our radius, which is down the bottom, to say 23. That's growing that, and it's automatically fused into place. I'm going to leave that at 20. So we've got our fan blade, but I want these edges basically filleted. So what do? We've gone all the way to this point. Well, I'm going to take the fusion, just delete that. So that leaves me an array, and inside that array we've got the common, and open up the common, and we've got the extrude and the offset. So the array takes the common and arrays it. So you can see here the base is the common, but I want to add some fillets onto this common. So if I click on the array and press the space bar and bring back the common, it's not coming back, it's not showing it. So I could delete the array, which will now show the common, and we'll come in and come up to make sure nothing's selected, come out to part, fillet, selected shape. Now if I selected something, this will be selected in here, but we can just drop this down and click on the common. And I can select the edges. So let's select the edges that we want. Actually, let's select faces, and click on this face and work our way around. So I'm adding the faces that I want. And this will add the two edges either side, like so. And finally this one. Our extrude will be part of the sweep, which is also part of the offset. So we'll be looking at the offset size, which is 3 millimeters. So 1 millimeter each side will be fine. Hit OK, we'll get this edge here. So as long as the two don't add up, then we won't get a problem with our fillet. So now we can take that and array that back over in the draft workbench. So instead of arraying the common, we'll be arraying the fillet. So click the fillet, modifications, array tools, and polar array. Set that to 3 and reset the points and hit OK. So we've got that. The final step to this again is to take the array, which is this one. Make sure we click the array and control click the cylinder, and back over in the part workbench we'll use the Boolean again. So part, Boolean, and union those together as one. So one more step that we may want to do with this model is change the pitch of these blades. Now as you can see, the pitch of the blades follows the helix. there is an option on the sweep that we can make this more flowing. So it follows a different route. So if you want to change this to make it a little bit different, let's come back into the array, look at the fillet, look at the common underneath, and then back into our offset. And what we're looking for is the sweep. If we look at the sweep and come down, we've got this frenet. And that's set to false at the moment. If we set this to true and click off, everything will recompute. And we get a different alignment for the blades. So as you can see, the profile has been aligned against the helix, but we have this kind of pitch / twist to this blade, which may be effect that you want. And this is the frenet option in the sweeps. This is detailed in the FreeCAD wiki for the part sweep, and it's this frenet option here. And it controls how the profile orientation changes as it follows along the sweeping path. So if you want to know more about frenet, we can have a look on the wiki just here. And it actually does mention about helixes, about profile creep on here. So if you're getting problems with helix sweeping, then frenet might be your answer. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to look at the part design workflow, then there's a link in the description of this video that will take you to it. Hope you're enjoying this series. I hope to see you again soon. If you like what you see and you want to donate to the channel, then you can do so via Ko-Fi or Coffee at ko-fi.com/MANG0 or via PayPal at paypal.com/paypalme/DarrenBEstone. I also run a Patreon where you can get early access and additional content, and that's at patreon.com/MangoJellySolutions. Links can be found in the channel header, on the About page, or in the descriptions of these videos. I thank everybody that's donated so far. It really helps to keep the lights on so I can produce more content and also expand the channel. Thank you for liking, commenting and subscribing to these videos, and I hope to see you again in the next one.